You see, we've been lied to. And not just by one person or one company. We've been lied to by an entire industry. You've been led to believe that all you need is a pretty landing page and your customers will convert themselves. But that's simply not true. In fact, the idea that your website or a landing page needs to be designed well is a myth entirely. But we're gonna be getting to that a little bit later, because that's only the tip of the iceberg. It gets so much worse than that. It's almost as though this entire industry is built on false principles that could come crashing down at any point in time. To get to the root of the problem, we need to take a trip down to the memory lane. And we need to go back to the basics. It's time to discover what a website is actually supposed to do. We need to figure out exactly what it takes to convert more customers, what it takes to make more money. Today, I will unlock the 5 secrets that I have kept hidden for almost a decade. The very same ones that I've used to scale our clients at my agency for the last 5 years. And once we discovered them, it allowed us to build the perfect website. We generated $1.7 million in revenue in just 12 months. And today, we'll show you how you can do the same. So with that, these are the 5 exact steps you need to start making more money than ever with your website. First thing is, you need to know what you're aiming for. After, you need to choose the right vehicle. Then, you're gonna forget everything you think you know about design and introduce the modern day GRUN Effect with our page architecture. And finally, A/B/T, always be testing. Consider this. What actually is a landing page? And what is a website? Why the hell do you even have one in the first place? You see, I told you that we've been all lied to by our entire industry. So the answer to those questions, we first need to establish the purpose of a website. Luckily, the answer is quite simple. It's just been overcomplicated by big corporations that want to rinse you out of money you don't even need to spend. A website is a bridge between you and your customers. It allows your customers to get to you. This means it's how you actually make money. And that's it. That's all a website should ever be. And the landing page, well, that's just the entry point, the door into your virtual storefront. Now, that also means a website is not just a nice to have or a branding tool. Your website is the essence of your business. And by extension of that, when your website isn't optimized, it's not just a small issue. It's your biggest problem and an opportunity cost. So where did we go wrong as an industry? When did everyone start messing up websites and doing them all wrong? Nowadays, agencies think about websites as the exact opposite of what they are. They think about them as branding tools, as a creative outlet to show how cool and hip the company is. And that's where everything has gone really, really wrong. Instead of talking about the cool, unique, or creative designs, these agencies should be talking about page architecture, copy, positioning, and actually having a good value proposition. So why aren't they talking about it? How have they gotten so confused? How should you really think about your website? To answer that, let's take a trip down to the memory lane. I've already told you that your website is like your digital storefront, but I want you to really think about it. Think about the 70s and 80s. The economy was still similar to what ours is today. It just wasn't as digitalized. So, what did that mean? Well, it meant that the main way to do commerce was by having a swanky office, or more importantly, an incredible storefront. And think about how much work goes into building out an actual store. First, you're gonna have to go through the hassle to find the right location. Then, the legal complications of signing the lease or buying the property. Only then you can begin to actually architect the interior, the exterior, and do all the interior design, so on and so forth. It took months and months on end. And now, here's the kicker. You have to do the exact same thing today, but simply online with your website. But somehow, everyone is convinced that you just need a website that looks good. So let's get to the next question. What were the best stores doing? And which stores were actually the best? one particularly stands out: Sears. Their physical store presence was second to none. Why? Because they mastered something at scale that others struggled to replicate: the amount of time customers spent in the store. How? To what became known as the GRUN Effect. In a nutshell, the GRUN Effect describes the phenomenon where customers enter a shopping mall or a store and become so overwhelmed by the surroundings that they forget what they initially came to buy, leading to impulse purchases. This effect was a byproduct of architect GRUN's designs, which often featured intricate layouts, attractive displays, and a comfortable environment. And these were all intended to enhance the shopping experience, but also to contribute to customer disorientation and increased spending. So by maximizing the amount of time spent in their store, Sears and others were able to maximize their customer average order value. And another store that's known for this method today is IKEA. I mean, just think about it. Every time you go to IKEA for one little thing, you end up leaving with 10. They force you to walk through their entire selection of stuff. But how the hell does all of this relate to websites? The modern day GRUN effect means you need to do the exact opposite. When customers visit your website, you don't want to confuse them. You want to make their experience as seamless as possible. Just consider how rapidly people's attention spans have decreased over the last few years with the rise of TikTok and short-form content. And now imagine how much that has changed over the last decade. Now imagine in the last 50 years, which is when the GRUN effect was first discovered. Just since the year 2000, the average attention span of internet users has dropped by 40%. And the average time spent on the website is just 15 seconds today. So it's extremely important to make your website as seamless and as easy to use as possible. Otherwise, your visitors will simply click away. And luckily, in this day and age, we know exactly what each customer is there for, so we can direct them to precisely where we need them to go. There are a number of steps you need to take in order to achieve the modern day GRUN effect. And that's what you will be learning today. You will learn how to make your website so seamless yet captivating that it simply starts printing money for you. It's really quite simple. You can't score if you don't know what you're aiming for. And that's why the very first secret to starting to print money with your website is actually screening what you want to achieve with it. And more than that, you need to figure out how to communicate your business goals. You see, your website is the only platform you truly own. It's the essence of your business.
They're in the call.
So how can we make more money with our website? We got a super cool looking template online, but we just can't seem to convert visitors into customers.
Well, that won't work. If you just slap a logo on a Wix template and hope for the best, well, then you probably don't really care about your business. Instead, you need to be able to answer these questions.
We often have clients come to us with a website that has won awards online, and they paid more than $200,000 for the initial build. But after a few months, they come to one really harsh realization. They're getting a negative ROI on that investment. They come to the disappointing conclusion that they don't even really have a website. I mean, just think about the earlier definition. Instead, they have a fun business card and not even a business asset. So, if you want to ensure that your website has a positive return on investment, you need to know what you're aiming for and what it takes to get there. Otherwise, you'll end up in a place you don't even want to be, spending money you never even needed to spend. But before taking the most tangible steps to improve your website, you need to choose the right vehicle. There are primarily 3 different routes you can take when developing your website. The first one is to do it yourself on an easy-to-use website builder like Wix or Squarespace. Then, you can have a development agency use a more advanced tool like Webflow or Framer. And finally, you can have a fully custom-coded website. Let's face it, option 1 simply doesn't cut it. In today's day and age, it's just not enough. You can't be like Sears and get left behind. Option 3 is too time-consuming, too costly, and frankly, I think it's unnecessary. Some of the world's biggest companies have actually built their websites on third-party tools. So that leaves us with option 2, which begs the question, which tool should you use? Should you use Framer, Webflow, Strapi, maybe even everyone's favorite, WordPress, or something else entirely. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. All of these options are good options. They all get the job done. But which one is used by the best companies? Personally, I'd venture to say that it's Webflow. At least, that's what I've seen with all of our clients. Webflow provides the most flexibility for your website. And more importantly, it provides you with the strongest foundation to optimize for growth. And that's why our entire enterprise client portfolio is worth a collective of $5 billion. But exactly how do we use Webflow to optimize for growth? Well, why don't you give you an example? One of our enterprise clients had a nice, seemingly functional website. On the face of it, there was nothing wrong with the website itself. It had nice page structure, good headers, but they were still struggling with driving enough traffic to the website. So they requested an audit. And like I said at first, everything seemed fine. But then we did a full website audit of their landing page and their whole website. Now, these audits can get pretty complex, but the results were staggering. Immediately, we noticed that this client's website had completely failed to drive SEO traffic from their resource center. So having transferred their website from Strapi to Webflow, we got to work. Using the tools available to us on Webflow, we were able to generate a 20% increase in SEO traffic. Now, that might not sound like a lot, until you realize that a mere 20% increase in traffic is actually tens of thousands of people. And it's taking those small steps that we've able to increase our client's revenue multiple times over. I mean, for this particular client, the 20% increase resulted in an extra 40,000 visitors, bringing in their total to over 200,000. Just think about how much money revenue was that 20% increase. And the only thing we had to change was the platform they were using. And this is just one of the examples how fatal choosing the wrong platform can be. So that's why I personally believe that the foundation of making a perfect website is choosing the right vehicle. Now, I've told you before that you've been lied to by the entire industry. And that's why you need to unlearn and forget everything you think you know about design. Why? It's a load of garbage. Because it doesn't make money. In fact, it's much worse than that. Not only do these fancy design elements not make money, they actually cost you money. Not just because you have to pay for them, but because they hurt your website's functionality. This means it hurts your conversions, resulting in fewer customers and less money. So all that fancy design you pay tens of thousands for actually hurts your bottom line more than anything else. Because if you simply strip your website of all of that nonsense and did nothing else, you'd already make more money. I mean, just think about it. You could have the most beautifully designed store, but if people can't find a way what they're looking for and can't find the checkout, they're gonna simply leave. And it's no different with websites. They must be functional. Now, that little thought experiment makes some big presumption. It assumes that you can actually make something that everyone enjoys. And the reality is that you can't. So let's take a step back and just think. Some people love Louis Vuitton, a lot of people actually, and some absolutely hate it. And others like Laura Piana, and others don't care for either. And that's why everyone has the choice. So obviously, you'll never be able to appeal to everyone's design preferences. You may be thinking, well, of course, but I just need my customers to like my design. But that's not entirely true either, because only a small percentage of your website visitors will ever become your customers. So you want to maximize that number, and the way to do it is by not focusing on pretty design. Look, we've all been down this road so many times with so many clients. We've even made the same mistakes ourselves, like with our website. And we thought we had a good looking design that was really, really sick. But the data proved that we very much did not. And that's actually the crux of this entire myth. You see, it all boils down to this. After over 10 years designing thousands of websites, we came to a very specific set of conclusions what actually makes a good design. We've spent the last few years refining our method to get to where it is now. And now, we're at a point where we can just copy and paste it. And we know it always just works. It's bulletproof. We call it functional design. And so what's the difference? A pretty design is opinion-based, whereas a functional design is data-driven. And the issue was never really the design to begin with. The issue with these branding agencies and creative agencies, because let's be honest, that's what they are, they'll come up with all of these elaborate designs based on nothing more than their opinion. And frankly, that never works. So what is actually functional design? It's a design that optimizes for certain metrics, and design that feeds into and grows the very markers that drive your business forward. Let me give you an example. Once we realized that we were guilty of the pretty design crime, we knew that we needed to make a change. So we revamped our entire website, and the results were staggering. This time, we didn't set out to build a pretty website. We analyzed our entire landing page and screwed it through the data. Using heat mapping and other tracking tools, we were able to figure out exactly what our potential customers didn't like. We saw exactly where the drop-off was. We could see which buttons were clicked and caused the confusion on a website. We combined through enough data points to fill in a whole room, and only then we actually began building. And this time around, our goal was singular: maximize time spent on our website. And here's a big difference between the GRUN Effect and our website. We didn't want people to be aimlessly clicking around. We wanted to increase their total time spent. But that total time needed to be directed towards an end goal, which for us was booking a call on our website. We knew that more time a prospect spent reading testimonials, the more likely they were to enter the funnel. And the results were staggering. We were able to increase their time spent on our website by over 50%. And now, that alone isn't as impressive. What's actually more impressive is that following this change, our revenue increased 150%. Think about that for a second. We increased our time spent by 50%, and by doing so, we tripled our revenue. And believe me, we didn't get there by having trendy designs. It was only functionality that allowed us to improve so drastically. So realize this: there is a bar of design you need to meet. Obviously, you can't have a website that looks like it's from the 90s. But beyond that, fancy design is utterly useless. And throwing money into creative design simply will not solve your problems. And that's why you need a property analysis of your site in order to figure out where it fails and, what I like to say, pass the functionality test. And that's exactly what we figure out for our clients during our website audit. Now, step 4 is where the most people go wrong, but it's also the easiest step to implement into your website to result in more business. And this is probably the most tangible step you will get into this video besides the very last one. Now, for you to actually realize how important page architecture is, just think about this. The functionality of your designs will only ever be as good as its architecture, because it's the page architecture that dictates where the design elements even are. And that's why trillion-dollar companies have spent millions upon millions of dollars trying to determine the optimal page architecture. And we've already seen how crucial the architecture of a store can be. So much so that there is an entire psychological phenomenon named after the architect GRUN. And now imagine how much more pressing the architecture of a website is. Think about it like this. If your store is very, very popular, maybe 1 million people are gonna visit it per year. If you're one of the largest stores like IKEA, you'll attract a few million per year. Now, that's still an unfair comparison. So let's say you have the most popular mall in the world, Dubai Mall. Last year, over 100 million people visited it. That's the most amount of people that visit any store in the world. Now, look at the most visited websites. Apple, Instagram, YouTube, Amazon. Billions of people visit this every single year. And let's take Amazon for example. Last month, they clocked at 2.1 billion website visits. That's 21 times more than all of the Dubai Mall in a year. Expand that across the year and it equates to over 25 billion visits. But if you look at YouTube, They clocked in over 35 billion visits in just last month. And now that you have to begin to understand the scale of the most powerful websites in the world, just imagine how much money these companies pour into having the best websites. For most companies, like minor adjustments can result in millions of dollars. And that's what it's like for our clients. But for these giants, the tiniest little detail can result in billions of dollars in either lost or gained revenue. So the stakes couldn't be higher. I mean, consider things like colors. Do you really think that these websites choose the colors that look good or the ones that actually work? You see, color is a dopaminergic trigger and different colors will signal different things to your brain. So it's all about being intentional with these seemingly small design decisions. These massive corporations conduct experiments where they track people's eye movements and brain actively to figure out which colors trigger them the most, and more importantly, trigger the desired response. And now consider button placement. These are all of the little things that matter the most. Just moving a button up or down an inch can have a world of a difference. But why does all of this matter for you? You can't conduct large-scale experiments tracking people's eye movements. Luckily for you, we've studied all of the biggest and most profitable players in the space. And with our clients, we've figured out the best page architecture. So with that said, here's my thesis when it comes to page architecture. It's actually a lesson I learned from the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. You see, people will always care about themselves more than anything else. And that's why your website needs to make people feel like it's solving their problems. So I've created a cheat sheet for you to use that will make your visitors feel like they're number one and that the website was created to solve their problems. Here's our process that we use for our clients who, by the way, generate over $5 billion in revenue combined. By studying the best and the biggest players, we've combined their secrets with our experience and created the ultimate page architecture. And what we're about to show you is everything your webpage needs to have. This is truly the modern day GRUN effect that actually prints money. Today, we'll be revealing it for the very first time. So let's begin with a hero. HubSpot have mastered heroes. So what can we learn from them? If we take a look at their kind of hero title, it says, grow better with HubSpot. And the thing is, they're focusing that if you're a company, you're probably approaching a growth stage and you're gonna be needing HubSpot to take all of your data. And because of that, you need to be customer focused. You need to stop trying to show off and prove that you're the best. Instead, just show you're the best solution for your customer. Next, you need to establish credibility. And a few websites do this better than Shopify. If we take a look at their credibility section, they say, discover why millions of entrepreneurs choose Shopify to build their business from Hello World to an IPO. And why is this so good? Because they managed to establish their credibility whilst being customer focused. They're able to showcase their scale and ability to offer an AZ solution in just one sentence. And that's how you build instant trust. Next, you need to showcase the problem. Otherwise, nobody will buy your solution. And few do this more clearly than Notion. They say, consolidate tools, cut costs. And the more concise you can be, the better, because as mentioned before, people's attention spans have never been worse. Once you've shown the problem, offer the solution. Showcase your solution by talking about it in a benefit-oriented way. But the key is that you can only talk about the benefit once you've established your credibility and also introduced the problem. Once you've shown your credibility and the problem, the solution is just a walk in the park. Now, the most people skip out on this and just don't do it right. You need to use video testimonials. Nothing makes it easier for people to believe testimonials than seeing them on video. And that's one of the things that helped us increase the time spent on our website by 50% and subsequently tripled our revenue. An additional thing you can use is to make sure to add numbers to your testimonials. Don't just talk about your success. Show it. You need multiple touch points, and the more your visitors knows, the greater the odds that they're gonna be buying your product. One of the things we've made a mistake for a long time is that we didn't offer anything for free. 97% of visitors are not ready to buy when they view your website. And you need to give them a reason to stay on your site, to give them a reason to keep thinking about you. And that's exactly where free value you offer is golden. I mean, you can offer webinars, white papers, free software, ROI calculators, whatever it might be. Just keep your users engaged and keep them coming back to your website. Because the average person needs to see something 8 times before they buy. And offering things for free is an easy win to keep your visitors in your funnel. And this is an easy win because almost nobody is doing it right. Then, of course, you need your call to action. All you need is one call to action per page. No more and no less. Don't confuse people by having multiple CTAs and multiple buttons. You'll just scatter people's focus and shoot yourself directly in the foot. Keep in mind that if people don't know what you want from them, they won't give you anything. And finally, ABT. Always be testing. Now, the final step in this 5-step method is by far the most important. I see so many people get this wrong. Even if they do everything else right, they set their goals, they choose the right platform, they fix their design, and perfect their architecture. They do everything just right. And then they simply drop the ball. Why? Because they neglect their website. And websites are, I think, a live thing. You consistently need to check to see if your assets are working, to go ahead and consistently know how to iterate and improve your website. The very methods that worked just 6 months ago may no longer work. So what should you be looking out for? Well, we always track 5 metrics on a weekly basis for all of our clients. And when analyzing those 5 metrics, we keep in mind one truism in business. The key to success in business is lifetime value to cost of acquisition. In other words, you need to know the lifetime value of your customers to know how much it makes sense for you to spend in order to acquire them. So these are the 5 metrics that enable you to have a real-time analysis of your website health. And whenever one metric begins to kind of dwindle or fall short, then we're going to be able to go ahead and fix it. First is website visits, and ensure that you exclude irrelevant countries. Most agencies will just give you one flat number. But if only 1% of your customers are from like Australia, then it doesn't really help you if 50% of your traffic comes from there. That's why we only track websites visits from relevant countries. Countries that actually make you money. The second thing to track is free value signups. This allows us to test what sort of freebie works the best for your business. This not only helps the website health, but also give you an insight into your target audience. Conversion rate on the core converting page. This is probably the most important metric, the metric that actually makes money. So it's paramount that it always performs optimally. Time spent on the website. Now, time spent on the website doesn't actually mean much unless it's properly analyzed. Because if somebody spends a long time, it would equally mean that they're not finding what they're looking for. Yet, they're motivated to find it. Or it could just mean that they're making a calculated decision. So that's why we always pair this metric with a heat map that tells you exactly where and what end visitors are spending their time. This allows you to impact the conversion rate significantly, which in turn boosts your business. And finally, SEO traffic. The more eyeballs you get on your website, the better. And SEO is basically a free way to build an asset which acquires more and more eyeballs over time. But because Google always changes, you consistently need to optimize it and to track how much traffic you're getting from Google. So how can you track these even if you're not a client of ours? You can use our free software, DataGoat, to go ahead and track all of these and get detailed reports on a weekly basis. And once you have the data, you can test consistently. And that's how you actually win this game. ABT. Always be testing. Now you have the 5 easiest and best steps in order to optimize your website and start printing money. The only question that remains is how actually these apply to your website. Normally, this is the point at which you need to hire someone. Whether it's an auditor or it's an agency, it's very, very difficult to diagnose all of these steps correctly. When we first start working with clients, an audit is always the first step. And our clients pay us anywhere from 50 to 100K per year. But today, we're doing something different. Something we've never done before. Today, we're offering the exact same audit for one of your website pages. Normally, that would be available only to our clients. But today, you may be one of the select few individuals that will offer the audit to. The best part, it's gonna cost a fraction of what it costs to work with us otherwise. In fact, it's gonna cost even less than a fraction, because it won't cost you anything at all. We're offering a select number of these one-page audits entirely for free. But we can't guarantee them to everyone. You see, our goal is to fight against the lies that have been plagued in our industry for years. So, every quarter, I'm gonna tell my team to offer a limited number of free audits. When I first started my agency over 5 years ago, it was just me. But now, we've scaled to over 50 team members. So every single team member will be doing one audit per quarter. Now, if you're watching this, there may still be a few audits left, because we're only going to offer 50. Not only will you get a full audit of one of your website's pages, exactly as if you were one of our clients, but you'll get another bonus. Of course, ideally, we would audit your entire website. But since we only have the capacity to offer you a one-page audit, we want to give you the tools you need to audit the rest yourself. That means we'll give you the exact step-by-step guide that we give our new hires when we train them to conduct an audit. And all of this completely for free. But be quick, the spots may have already been filled up. Now mind you, at the end of this, we have nothing to sell you. There's no course, there's no upsell. The only way to be able to work with us is by being our client. And we only work with a select few clients that we're really confident that we can transform completely. That means the only way to access the very same expertise that allowed us to work with clients like Checkout.com and UpWork is to click the link in the description of this video and to sign up for your free one-page audit. But as I said, you need to act fast. This is the first and the only time we are going to be revealing everything to you. This is quite literally the same information we are using ourselves to spearhead this industry. And it's the same information that the giants of the space are using. And these are the golden nuggets we've collected after being in the space for almost 1 decade. So with that said, click the link in the description and turn your website into the most important asset of your business.